And are you still involved in that freelance firm today?
Oh, no, not at all. This is my second career we're now talking about. I'm in my third career currently. My second career began with this freelance firm. I opened my own company, as I say. It was small, and I kept it small. But I wound up with enough nice clients who also had work on the West Coast, so I opened an office on the West Coast with a friend of mine. And then I wound up doing some work in Hong Kong, so I had to have an office there in order to produce daily copy and immediate copy. That led to a lot of other people in the local New York area who did work in Europe, who asked me if I would be able to go to Europe and produce daily copies there, so I wound up with a production office in London. So that's what I did in my own way, in my own freelance firms. That lasted for about 15 years. And then I decided I wanted to semi-retire. Someone told me that there was an opening in a federal court. And I said, how difficult can it be working in a federal court? You've done state, you've done freelance work, you've done it around the world, you've done immediate copy. How tough can this be? So I applied. They were very kind and gave me a job in the federal court in the Eastern District of New York, located in Brooklyn. I accepted the job. I took the job and learned that this was not semi-retirement, working for the federal courts. That started in 1997, so that was my second failed retirement from freelance now. Went into the federal court in 97, and several interesting things happened from there. I don't know if I'm boring you or going into too much detail.
Are you currently involved in, do you have a fourth?
No, well, actually I have a side enterprise, which you might consider a fourth career. Now I'm doing them at the same time because I'm running out of a whole bunch of years in front of me, so I'm doing them at the same time. But what I am currently a federal court reporter, and I have been since 1997. When they built a courthouse in Long Island, I think they built it just for me because it's 15 minutes from where I live. So I just grabbed the opportunity or seized the opportunity. I applied for it. They were kind and gave me the job in Central Islip, New York, which is a very nice, large federal court building. And then a couple of years ago, and this is the parallel career that I kind of alluded to a moment ago, the courthouse, knowing that I had a collection of steno machines, asked if I was interested in putting them on display. I said, sure, I'd be very happy to do that. They didn't know, nor did I, what it would become. It became what is now known as the Gallery of Shorthand, which effectively is a shorthand museum which traces the history of shorthand back to 3500 BC, when one of the so-called, and it's not my term, greatest civilizations of all time, who came to the realization that any thought which is important should be preserved, created the first system of writing, and then trained for 12 years people to implement that, the ancient scribes of Sumeria. A few thousand years later, the Egyptians did something similar, and so I, in my museum, trace the roots of our profession to that period of time, those two civilizations, and then continue it for a total of 10 epics or time segments, ending with real-time captioning and CART. Because it's in a federal courthouse, and it's something, therefore, which is viewed by not just court reporters, but also lawyers, judges, witnesses, and average people, the public, people who have no clue of what a reporter does, I try to tell the story in a way which they can relate to. And so the theme of this is that we and our ancestors, we professional reporters and our professional ancestors, preserve thought. That's the thread which runs through the entire 10 epics. And then as asides from that, I talk about things such as the war crimes trials. Now that's something which, reporter or not, lawyer or not, people can relate to. And I talk about the war crimes trials and then talk about reporter involvement in them. Vivian Spitz, for example, who did the Nuremberg war crimes trials, was very kind and favored me with some photographs that are on display, such as a photograph of all the reporters who reported the Nuremberg trials. I've never seen that anywhere else. And of course, I have her book and other things. We trace the Japanese trials and so forth. But also things such as congressional reporting, the congressional record, the fact that that was started by a court reporter. So I try to, for the purpose of those people who are walking through who don't know anything about reporting or even the law, I try to show them things which may pique their interest. We have one display which I'm really proud of. It took me a year to put together, which I've entitled, How They Do That, Some of the Magic Revealed, which tries in several ways. It's about a 6-foot wide display, perhaps 2.5 foot high. It talks about what reporters do, what they don't do, how they do it, what we do with homophones, the fact that we do more than hear and write, that we also have to include punctuation, that we have to designate who is saying what, and so forth. So that's my other parallel career.
So given all of your various careers, different iterations thereof, if your peer group decided to reminisce about you, they would say what? He is
Wasting a lot of time. He really should be just out there making as much money as he can and not spending a lot of time with these silly things about showing people steno machines and books from the 1600s because it costs a lot of money and therefore that money can't go to feed his family.
other than that.
Other than that, the people who see some value in what I've done and what I'm trying to do and trying to continue to do say, this man loves his profession, has done an awful lot. And to this day, he speaks to student groups almost on a weekly basis that come into the courthouse about his profession, his passion, what reporters do and what they don't do, why they're valuable to society, and why alternatives are really not good. And where alternatives are used, primarily it's only where reporters can't be afforded or where transcripts are not necessary. But giving them a pretty good flavor. And my colleagues, when they hear these students leave my talks, my colleagues come away saying, golly, I hear people saying that they may be interested in becoming a reporter, so maybe there is something good in some of the things that he's doing. So what would they say about me? He's done a lot of silly things, but maybe there's some value in some of them.
I think you've said it all. I appreciate you taking the time to give us an overview of your very expansive career and your attempts to try to preserve the history of reporting for those that follow us. And thank you very much, Dominick.
And I thank you for the opportunity.